Okay. So in the past, what we've done is kind of went around the room and everyone got a chance to share something, usually about what they're wanting at this point in their life more than anything, just as a way to ground what we're doing moving forward. But but this time I thought we might try this a little bit different. I thought we might actually begin with the meditation, and then afterwards, then we can just have whatever discussion that comes up. So, for those of you who are new to this, welcome. My name is Brian Hoover, as most of you know, with Discovering the Soul. And this is just a little group meditation that I love to do. I love to do these meditations. I love to shine light on the specific mechanisms of the mind that create our experience. And from my experience, when those mechanisms are more clearly seen, the challenges in our life begin to dissolve, or at least incrementally start being less intense or less of a problem. So I really love to explore meditation along with conversation, because in meditation, the meditations that we do aren't necessarily like flowery words that bring us into a meditative state. So the way that we do meditations in this group is it highlights functions of the mind in such a way that begins to reduce some of their power, reduce some of the absoluteness. So in contemplating reality, or in contemplating the structure of our thinking or the structure of our mind, that itself begins to reduce some of the intensity that we may experience in our life at times. So it's so helpful to see things from these different perspectives, and meditation is very good at allowing us to see things from a different perspective. Okay, so if everyone's ready, I think we can go ahead and begin. Make sure everyone has their microphones on mute. And if you like, feel free to close your eyes. And also, since we're muted, it doesn't matter too much, but for your own experience, maybe consider muting any of your extra devices like phones or whatever else. I'll do the same on my end. Okay. So cool. So glad everyone's here. This is wonderful. Okay, so here we go. Go ahead and begin to close your eyes and get comfortable. And the very first thing that's helpful to do, whether we're wanting to be centered when our eyes are open, or when we're wanting to meditate when our eyes are closed, is to first notice what's already here. What's already happening. one aspect that's already here, already happening, is sound. We may notice sound. Another aspect that's already here, that's already happening, is sensation or feeling. Another aspect that's already here, already happening. Could be emotion. And the last primary aspect, you could say, especially since our eyes are closed, that's already here and already happening, is thought. And as we begin to isolate and place our attention on these different aspects that are already here and already happening, we may notice the mind describing to us what may need to be fixed or changed about any one of these aspects. But here, when we're wanting to be centered, if our eyes are open, or wanting to meditate if our eyes are closed, we're not so interested in those descriptions of what may need to be changed about our experience, what's already here or already happening. But when a thought comes in attempting to describe what may need to be fixed or changed about our immediate experience, we can't push that thought away, because that would be the changing and fixing energy coming through the back door. But rather, include that thought in with the innocence of what's already here, what's already happening. And in this way, you see, there's nothing that couldn't be included in with what's already here, what's already happening. And now, a very special thing has happened. We have what you could call objectified the aspects of experience, and as such, created them or identified them as something other than ourself. If we are aware of sound, of course, we couldn't be a sound. And verify this in your own experience. Of course, if I hear a sound, how could I be a sound itself? Again, if I am aware of the body, which, when my eyes are closed, is experienced exclusively as sensation, apart from what you may consider as emotion being part of the body, but for now we're speaking to sensation. If I am aware of sensation, if I am aware of the object we're referring to as sensation, how could I be this object? Similarly to sound, again, if I am aware of a sound, I know I'm not the thing called sound itself. Similarly with sensation, I am aware of sensation. So how could I be that of which I am aware of? Doesn't there have to be something that is being aware? What is that? What is it that's being aware of sensation? And verify this in your own experience. Look to see, is there sensation? Is there the sensation of the body? And if so, are you aware of it? In which case, how could you be that of which you are aware of? What is this awareness? And we ask the question, what is this awareness? Not to necessarily get an answer, although that may be helpful at times, but more so as a way to point to yourself, your true self. What is this awareness? What is it that's being aware? And similarly, if there is emotion present, how could we be something that we are aware of? If we are aware of emotion, doesn't that mean that it's something other than ourself? What is it, the question is, that is being aware? And again, verify this in your own experience. If there's any emotion, any feeling, look directly at it. Know that there is a feeling. Know that there is an emotion. And then ask oneself, if I know there is an emotion, then what is it that's doing the knowing of it? And lastly, we will apply this same framework to the last aspect of our experience, the last primary aspect, thought. If and when a thought arises, we may notice the description of how our life or that thought should be different or should be changed. But here, we're not so interested in that description because that would be just the same energy coming through the back door. Rather, we're interested in just witnessing that energy. Witnessing that thought, and as such, you could say, including it in with what's already here, what's already happening. And the inclusion of everything in this way is the ability to step back and to identify, to step back and to identify ourself, our true nature, ourself prior to thought, ourself prior to emotion, ourself prior to sensation, ourself prior to manifestation, prior to incarnation. This is not such a distant thing. In fact, it's always here. It's always happening. Our self-awareness in this way wasn't just created. We didn't just create awareness together. We didn't conjure it up in some manipulated way. We just focused on it. And as such, began to experience the peace that is our true nature. As we focused on awareness, who we really are, we began to experience and feel the nature of who we really are, which happens to be peace. This is what people call meditation, but it's really simply ourself. It's going home. And it's something that's always there. We are always aware. And now that some of us may have accessed meditation, accessed who we are prior to manifestation, prior to incarnation, accessed the deeper part of ourself, accessed our soul, you could say, spirit, even the divine. We can begin to look at or contemplate the nature of reality or the nature of our experience in a different way. Notice from this point of absolute awareness, the mind may be less active in its fundamental structure, which we could call duality. So, now that we have in our minds the fundamental structure of thinking is duality, which has to do with myself or another, which might have to do with past and future, which might have to do with gradations, better or worse, want or don't want. This or that. So when we say duality, we're really speaking about identifying differences. Two or more things. Duality. Two or more things to consider in a variety of different ways. This is the fundamental structure of thought. Now, throughout this, remember to stay with who we are as awareness, as just this space that's observing. Now, we want to introduce what we could call foundational story structures. We want to plug that in to the recognition of the duality of thought. The fundamental story structures plugs into this recognition of the primary duality of thinking, which identifies all these different objects, things, people, places, better, worse, past, future. So these fundamental story structures, there's two of them. And if we can see through the illusion, or rather, if we can see through the absoluteness of these two fundamental story structures, then it begins to take the intensity in our lives down a notch. The two fundamental story structures are time and space. If we can see through time and space as being absolute, as being subjective rather than objective, then we will relax the intensity, the tension. We will truly know how to self-regulate. Continuing to stay with our awareness, this simple recognition of who we are. Don't leave this space as we explore these two fundamental story structures. Make this awareness your most important thing. And begin to listen to these two fundamental story structures more in the periphery. The first fundamental story structure is time. If we can see that time doesn't exist in the world, but rather only as a result of thought. Begin to look at our experience. Where is time in the world? Where is this? Where is time? Can time be found anywhere outside of referring to thought, images, or memory? Without referring, well, looking at the world, so to speak, looking at our direct experience, can time be found anywhere without referring to a thought, an image, or a memory? And of course, our mind will come up with a response. It'll say, well, sure. I see that things change all the time. Of course, that is the vehicle of thought, images, or memory delivering you that answer. Just recognize this. We're not saying it's bad or wrong. We're just witnessing the nature of how our experience is created. We're just witnessing the nature of how our experience comes together. Witnessing the nature of how we experience ourselves and our life. So look at our experience. Look at your experience and ask yourself, is it possible to find time anywhere other than thinking it so? Or to word that differently, without referring to a thought, an image, or memory, is it possible to find time? And we can even keep this more directly relevant, continuing to identify the aspects that are already here, already happening. Sound, sensation, perhaps emotion or thought. Just direct experience. In your direct experience right now, is it possible to find time without referring to a thought, an image, or a memory? Our thoughts might come in and say, well, sure, my body's changed throughout the years. Well, of course, that information is delivered to us through the vehicle of thought, images, or a memory. We're not saying this is bad or wrong. We're just wanting to witness how experience is created. Because when this information is delivered to us through the vehicle of thinking throughout the day, we more often than not assume its absoluteness. And as such, we live that experience. But here we're just attempting to witness how our experience comes together. We're just isolating the parts. We're just contemplating reality. We're just seeing clearly how things come together, how we, so to speak, create our experience. We're just witnessing how thought creates what you could call an alternate experience, alternate from direct experience. What is our direct experience? And in our direct experience, is it possible to find time without referring to a thought, an image, or memory? And lastly, the second foundational story structure we'll refer to as space. The first one was time, the second one is space. Notice that without referring to a thought, an image, or a memory, that it's not possible to know that if we were to look out our window, the rest of the city would be beyond the horizon. So let's imagine we're looking out our window and we see whatever amount of the city or country, what we'll say city, that we see, and then there's the horizon. And know that without referring to thought, images, or memory, it's not possible to know that the rest of the city is just beyond the horizon without referring to thought, images, or memory. And it's not to say that it's not helpful to think of the rest of the city being just beyond the horizon at times. We're really just wanting to witness this inner mechanism of thought, how it delivers to us information. And we assume its absoluteness. We're just wanting to witness the way thought participates in creating our reality, creating an alternate experience, alternate from direct experience. So as we pretend we're looking out a window, we see the horizon. Notice that without thought delivering to us what's just beyond the horizon, notice how thought adds to our direct experience, creating the perception of space. Notice how thought creates the perception of an earth, the perception of a universe. Know what your direct experience is. You can only see the city as far as the landscape goes. You can only see this room. And notice how much the mind, how much thought, images, or memory adds to creating an alternate experience, alternate from direct experience. And again, we're not saying this is bad. We're just wanting to witness how thought creates an alternate experience alternate from direct experience. We're just wanting to witness how experience comes together, how much we create, or the mind creates the way we experience. Now, for instance, let's pull up the image of our car in the parking lot. Our car, the sense of our car being in the parking lot, creates an orientation in our mind of what you could call what we call a three-dimensional physical world. Just simply by pulling up the image of our car in the parking lot, it orients us in space. But this is entirely a mental phenomenon. Us being oriented. And as such, know our proximity within space, within living in a three-dimensional physical world, within Earth, within the universe. Just the simple bringing to our attention where our car is in the parking lot automatically orients us into this world that is a completely mental world that we call three-dimensional physical world, that we call Earth, that we call life. But this is entirely a mental phenomenon, this orienting. And so we're not saying this is bad. We're just saying witness. Witness this phenomenon coming together. Know what direct experience is. And know what thought, images, or memory add to our direct experience. And as such, creating an alternate experience, alternate from direct. What is direct? What we can see with our eyes, what we can feel. You could say our senses, this is direct experience. The present moment, direct experience. So these are the two fundamental story structures. They're the two fundamental structures that allow the stories in our mind to become formulated, to become something solid. All of the stories in our mind about how someone's doing us wrong, or about how we can't have what we want, victim, perpetrator, all these problems are all based on these two fundamental story structures, time and space. If we can see through the absoluteness of time and space, we master how to self-regulate. We master being ourselves. And don't forget who you are. Awareness. The simple fact of being aware. We are not what we are aware of. We are what is aware. Now, as the very last thing, go ahead and take a moment to ask yourself, what is it that I most need to know? Whether it be from all we experienced here today or anything otherwise. What is it that I most need to know? Allow your mind to formulate that. And after you've received whatever it is you needed to know or receive from yourself, let's go ahead and bring our attention very slowly back to this moment, although recognize we never left this moment. We didn't go anywhere. We just slowly shifted our attention from our body, sensation, emotions, and thought to our awareness. And now we're slowly bringing it back to our body, emotions, awareness, thought, body, emotions, thought. Slowly bringing it back while maintaining the peace and the recognition of who we truly are. So when you're ready and you feel centered in this, feel free to take in a deep breath and open your eyes.